Today, our webinar is titled How to Support International Students in Courses. It will be hosted by myself, Sarah Aburaisi, as an international student, and we co-hosted with my dear friend, Eric Thomas. Eric, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, hello, my name is Eric Thomas. I'm originally from Bogota, Colombia. Though I am not an international scholar, I am a dual citizen who enjoys supporting all graduate students. And I'm also a TA this semester for Cafe 530. Welcome. Thank you, Sarah.
This webinar is a series of webinars that are provided by Centers of Academic and Faculty Excellence here in CGU. Our department thrives to try to promote equitable teaching and learning to support its students and its faculty members in order to have an enjoyable, joyful learning experience. So hopefully, we are going to maneuver how to support international students in your courses. So today we are going to discuss our matter in three ways. We're going to talk about understanding the unique needs of international students, also how to develop like culturally sensitive teaching practices, and finally, enhancing the communication and grading fairness. So let's delve in. Let's talk about understanding the unique needs of international students. It's good to know, to put in perspective, that in CGU, most of we have students from 51 countries, and they represent 22% of the student makeup. This, how can I say, this makes it so important for you to understand that in your class, it's very highly likely that a quarter of your class makeup are international students, whether that's 2 students or 20, if you're teaching a whole lot of class. Also, it's very important to note that CGU is graduate university, which is very unique. Not all schools are only graduate universities. So it's good to know that your international students are creme de la creme of international students. They are there, whether they were on scholarships from their home countries, whether they're self-motivated to pay all that tuition to pursue science, to be scholars in our university, or that they are sent from their original funded work study back home. So you're dealing with very highly educated makeup of international students that, although they're very educated in their domain, might have some difficulties from their stay in a new place. So that might make that stay in your class a little bit more challenging for them. So put that in mind. Let's put that in mind. They also have the stressor of being able to afford living in the United States if they're coming from poorer countries. Also, they have stressors in their lives about maintaining the scholarship that they came with, as well as the stressors of hearing bad news from back home. And that all affects them in your class, whether in their deadlines, in their behavior, in their general demeanor, in their excitement to pursue your class and your homeworks, and their general addition to your class. Because we're in this unique place, and schools in North America have been always been number one destination for people to pursue science. We as educators have to be well-rounded for that. Going on. So, what are those challenges? You might have language barriers. Wait, Sarah, you said that they're very highly educated. Yes, they are. But they have learned English as an English learner rather than an English mother tongue. So they do not know the jargon or the phrases. So if you're a native to California, you do have some slang that's very Californian, and you talk about very Californian things that international people do not understand. I mean, yesterday was my first earthquake. I don't know what's an earthquake. We have other stuff. I'm not saying we don't have others. We have other dramatic natural events. But
Congratulations, by the way.
thank you. Thank you. I'm now Californian. I'm now
Yeah,
Californian.
exactly.
I have to make a t-shirt. I've survived my first earthquake.
Right.
So something like that for like it was a I live in the Riverside, so basically it was just a little vibration. It was not the real deal. I'm in Corona, so it was not like where it originally hit. But in my brain, oh, you're in California. There's a lot of earthquakes in my brain. That's that's a natural disaster.
Hmm.
So yeah. So cultural adjustments, academic expectations as well. So I would like to make this funny anecdote. So we were working the other day, and my boss had to give a lecture somewhere else. So one of my colleagues replied back to the original message and said, "Break a leg." Why? Why? Why are we saying that to people? And then like, no, that's like it's unlucky to say good luck to someone. So if you think that that's English language, no, that's not an English language thing. That's a native language perception of language. So you might say stuff in class that you think that are very simple and logical. For me, that was like omnious. Why are you saying that to the person? Like, why would they break a leg? That's horrible. And that's like a small example of things. Or like, oh my God, I'm sorry I'm late. I was stuck on the 15th. What is the 15th? A simple word like a highway called the 15th would solve the problem. Mystery solved. Mystery solved.
Sarah, can I ask you a quick question? Is that
Yes, please. Yes, please.
so what I've noticed is that I try to catch those things in writing, like if I'm writing an announcement or an email, because I'm going slower and I can catch them. But it's harder when you're speaking, as you know, you just use the language you're accustomed to. So I
That's true.
guess my question then is it okay to say something at the beginning of class, like the first session, and just say, if I say something that I don't know if you can even just say it for international students. I guess I'm looking for wording, but can you say something up front that says, if I use a term or a phrase that you don't understand, don't know, it's fine to stop me and ask for clarification. Is that a good way to handle it, or do you have other suggestions about how to handle
Okay,
it?
housekeeping rules are the best. There's something that we've always heard and learned, that everything that you say at the beginning is a reason, everything you say at the end is an excuse. So everything that you begin with, like if you go at the first session and you've noticed, so basically you as an academic, you do have a list of your students. I'm not saying to be very, I mean, you can really like read it and like tell what is the makeup of your student, but you can always ask. do I have international students, scholars in my class? That's something that you can ask maybe the department personnel that is responsible for the lists and whatnot. And then if they do disclose, yes, you have 5, then you have like a legit reason to at the beginning say, well, we have a lot of people from a lot part of the world in our class, and I am native to California, and I might use some slang, even if you won't, Dr. Reynolds. Even if you don't, it's just putting it out there humbles people. They're gonna like, oh yeah, he's gonna, if you giving them like a warning that he might be using like some phrases. Please let me know if you don't get what I say. But you've said that you speak naturally, so you might use those phrases in. It's very nice if you have a TA and you tell your TA, I'm busy giving the content. If you please be vigilant, listen to whatever I say. And if I say a very Californian phrase, I'm not going to say interrupt me, but write it in the chat. Break a leg does not actually mean break a leg.
Hope not.
Disclaimer. Yeah, that's what I hoped. I was like, why is he saying that?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything that you say in advance is very humbling and will make life easier for those. And they might go like, well, he didn't say anything out of the norm. Like, I understood everything. Good, great. It's better than an outcome that says, I don't know, doctor was speaking so fast and he was speaking with such a Californian accent that I couldn't get it at all.
Well, now that you've described this, I realize I wouldn't even necessarily need to know there are international students in the class. I could just have an announcement at the beginning that says, if there's anyone here who's not a native speaker,
Yeah.
please be comfortable stopping me if I use a phrase that doesn't make sense. Something like that. And then that's a general announcement to everybody. We're not singling anybody out.
That's true. And if you can see, I don't know if it's apparent to everyone's screen, but there is something called closed captioning, and that's enabled through your Zoom. So basically now, as I'm speaking, it's typing what I'm saying. As an international student, sometimes I don't catch that in hearing. And I feel like if I look at it and I see it, I have 2 chances to understand what my American speaking English speaker is saying. Because I can see it, I can read it, then I have a chance. But that's an excellent thing, making it very general, a generalized thing. But although I don't think that international students will feel that they're singled out. I think they'll feel special. We have a lot of people from all parts of the world. We're here to learn from each other. Please stop me at any time if I'm saying something that's very Californian.
Okay, sounds good.
Also, the classroom dynamics, and I know that we're like on Zoom most of the time, but if you do have classes that are hybrid and you get to meet your students, classroom dynamics and student-teacher relationships and learning styles are very different in North America than a lot of parts of the world. So I was educated in the Middle East, and I was also educated in Europe, in the UK, in Scotland and specifically. And I was also educated here. And there is a difference between the 3 places, although they're not all Middle Eastern. Also, there is the aspect of daily life in a new country that will give an impact on your student. Navigating the local customs and the food, you guys, it's a big change for people. So that will reflect on your student. They might be uncomfortable if they were like new, if this is this first semester in the place. Also, in the US, our programs are more critical thinking and reflection and analysis and research. That's not necessarily it for the rest of the world. That's why teaching and studying in North America is something very valuable for one's horizon for being a scholar, right? It has to be. That's why that's a reason, because it's a different form of teaching. You would assume that everyone knows how to do that, but that's not true. So sometimes it's like rote learning and memorization, and I've done that. I've been in that situation where I memorized like a whole chapter. So that's a change that might reflect in your students' performance in your class. Grade-wise as well. They don't know how to critically analyze things. Wait, Sarah, you said that they're graduate students. Yes, they still don't know. They're making that adjustment. So have that in the back of your head. Not everyone is blessed to have that skill, but you're going to teach that or gracefully acknowledge that they're still learning that. Let's delve into our next chapter. We're talking about, you have people from diverse cultural backgrounds. And with everything that's happening in the world the last semester, I think we all understand that we have to be very culturally sensitive. And whatever our beliefs were, when you enter the classroom, you're neutral or you're empathetic with everyone equally. You are aware of what's happening. You have a stance on something. You feel for them. You call them by name and make sure they're fine. You email them. Are your family safe? Are you okay? How can I support you? Because academics is not only me talking at you. It's a relationship. And I know that I felt very good last semester with my professors. Everyone made sure that I'm fine. And everyone told me, how can I help you? And I felt not so far away from home. I had some sort of safety. So how do we do that? What is cultural sensitivity? It's specifically in education. It refers to the awareness, understanding, and respect for the diverse values, traditions, beliefs, practices of individuals and communities from various cultural backgrounds. And I'm going to add religious backgrounds. So in a month from now, we're going to enter the month of Ramadan. Ramadan, your students that are from the Muslim faith, the Islamic faith, including myself, are going to fast with no water, with no food, from dusk to dawn. And dawn happens to be at 5 p.m. That's when your class starts. So they're going to break their fast while trying to log into Zoom. So let's have some grace that my students, those who practice fasting, will be eating behind the camera. Will be eating while they're very hungry, and they're going to be quenching their thirst after a very long fast. Okay. While this is not something that you as a person should tolerate, like to each his own, right? Everyone fasts in some sort of way, but I mean, that's culturally sensitive. That's being equitable. That's having some empathy for the person that you're teaching in order to foster a very let's say healthy relationship between you and the student. Some relationship that will last forever. I'm sure that you remember at the back of your head one very, very, very good professor that you'd love to work with, and all memories about this person are good. And you remember the tougher professors that were not so very nice to you. Maybe your dissertation professor or something. Someone that was not so very culturally sensitive to your situation. you don't want to be that one, right? You don't want to be that person. So we live in a multicultural world and a multicultural setting. We are at CGU. We have a makeup of 22% of people. We do have like a student club for the Islamic faith. So they do make up a big makeup of our students. And so it's just vital for fostering that relationship. So you can communicate better, build the relationship, prevent misunderstandings, and enhance cooperation across your classroom. That's what you want. At the end of the day, you want a great outcome. Also, we have to address the elephant in the room. There are some cultural misunderstandings, and they do have an impact on the students. So, media representations now in the digital realm, and before that, there were like a lot of phobias from very particular people and particular cultures and particular. Do not foster that. Do not be the person that fosters that in your class. Rise above it, regardless of your own point of view of a certain group of people. When you enter the classroom, it's not you anymore. It's an all-inclusive, well-rounded professor that's there to do the teaching well, with all the pedagogy and ethical standards that are given. Your personal reflection on that particular group doesn't have to show in your class. So the same way that we fight racism very, very harshly, we should fight those in our classrooms who try to, I want to find the word, fester that phobia from certain races and certain religions and certain backgrounds. So the same way we attack that, we should attack the other aspect of it, because it is not fair for anyone to be treated because of bad misrepresentation. Eric, do you want to add anything about that? I feel that there's something to be added, but I can't put a finger on it.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's see. As a TA, I think it's just really important to understand how much our students bring into the classroom, how many assets, and that they are, like Sarah said, also very still finding their footing in the United States, and that oftentimes they can feel like they don't belong in a classroom. And so really just reflecting on how all students can belong. So not just thinking about equity, but how to make sure all of our students succeed in a graduate school environment is a really important part of reflecting on instruction and on acquiring new knowledge. So as graduate students acquire a lot of knowledge, like Sarah says, a lot of times they bring that into the classroom. However, without a lot of without understanding your dynamics in your classroom, some students may feel like they don't belong. And it's a real important reflection as we move forward in the semester, right? Equity and ensuring our students all succeed. And that success is really comes a lot from the faculty and instruction and design.
Thank you so much, Eric. Also, to put that in perspective, also, we have to understand cultural, social etiquette blunders. So, if we are teaching an in-person class and there is a person wearing the hijab, if we are members of the opposite sex, don't come much forward. Some cultures do not shake hand, so just be aware. Also, some cultures you have to make eye contact while you're speaking to the person. Others you have to like stray away. So it's important to understand the makeup of your classroom in order to not impact your student ability to make a reasonable relationship and integrate into the social fabric of a new country. Okay.
So can I ask another question then?
Go ahead.
So the issue for me then would be how I would get the information about different cultures since I'm not from those cultures. How would I know, for example, which cultural groups want to look me in the eye and which do not when I'm interacting?
So remember that we have like the first module 0 that we do class introductions in. I've seen a very nice practice that's done in the cafe courses previously and the preparing faculty courses, that you add a map and ask them to please tell us, where are you from? Where's home? And while that builds community because you're asking them to bring something very dear to their hearts and writing it down and pinning their city of origin and their journey in their education. And I studied there and I went from there and I'm from originally there. But I called this place home. While it brings you a person closer, it also gives you an idea. So, oh my God, yeah, I saw that there's this someone from the Middle East. Yeah. And that will give you a little homework for you to do via Google. What are the regular customs in Egypt? What are the customs of communication in Saudi Arabia? We do have a big makeup from Saudi Arabia in the university here. What are the social norms of people of South Asia and whatnot? It
So
requires yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
So a question and then an idea, which I guess could be a request, which is, so the question was, so I love that idea, the tool that you described of a map. Does Cafe have an example that we could
Yes.
borrow from?
Yes, I can send you the exact it's a I think it was a Padlet, but I will send you the link. And I think my friend Jonathan can help you set it up in Canvas. But I just have to make that specific arrangement. But I will be sharing that with you. Yes, we do. We have done that in several courses, and I do encourage it. The same way or another way, when you set up a discussion, uh, introductions, add in the prompt, where is home? That's like an easier non-technical way of encouraging them to add more of them into the introduction. And it gives you an overview from where are your class makeup.
Yep, that's a good thought. And then the other thing I was going to say is maybe more a request would be, if there are consistent set of these social rules, boy, that'd be a great tool if maybe Cafe and the Center for Teaching and Learning or some group collaborated on creating a document that all the faculty could access. And I think it's going to be a heavy lift if every faculty member needs to do that homework versus having a source that we could all go to, whether it's how it's structured online or something where we could go to get a cultural understanding for different groups. I understand that requires resource to create and would take some time, but that might be something that could be considered that could really help.
The problem with that is I think that people have different perceptions of the cultural norms, and maybe putting that in a document that is set in stone might offend people because people don't look at, like, I mean, maybe the resources, if I were to be from that specific place might not be quite right, but what I can do is I can suggest that I'll make a suggestion to have some sort of buzz group from people of different backgrounds where we can make some sort of webinar again that speaks to each etiquette as a student from a different part. I don't promise, I'm gonna try my best. But yeah, that's I think that's what I think appropriately can be done. I can see a
Another,
question from Saida.
Yes, if I may speak up, sorry, I have been an international student myself, and so I kind of have experienced these things. It's really hard to kind of know etiquettes of different parts of the world, because it's also not like as Sarah said, it's
Yeah.
not fixed in stone, and people from the same nation might have
Yes.
different etiquettes. And so
But
that,
there are big taboos, but
Yeah,
say that
yeah.
there are like big taboos that you can.
And also, but I just wanted to say that like things like shaking hands, like
Yes.
the same people from the same culture and country
Yes. Yes.
might be okay with shaking hands, and some might not be okay with shaking hands. So it's not really about where they're coming from or their religion or anything. It's just really what they choose to do. And so you can't assume, right?
Of course.
If you see a Muslim person, that they won't shake hands. They might get offended if you don't even shake hands with them, right? So I think the best way to go about these things is, first of all, like that at that suggestion of at the beginning of class, showing that you are open and willing to converse about these things, just showing that that there are differences and you're open to talk about them, versus there are people who just don't want to go there, right? So
That's true.
If a student picks up on the fact that you are a professor that is open to even learning about these things, you don't have to know everything, but you are open to learn about them, you are open to conversing about it, they will be more open to share with you.
That's true.
And also just the fact that you are aware enough that if a certain circumstance happens where you aim to shake hands with someone and they refuse, that you don't seem offended, right? Just kind of, I think, having that awareness. You don't have to know everything. We don't really expect for everyone to know everything, but I think it's really the attitude that you take towards differences that makes a difference for the student. That's how I feel.
I agree
I-
100%.
right. And I like that approach, can be easily stated at the beginning of class, just like the language issue we talked about before. And then, yeah, and then it's better than going out and searching on the web, because it sounds like we could get really confused just searching on the web, because there are going to be different people stating different things about culture that might hold, as you're saying, for one group within a culture, not for another group within a culture. So yeah, I like the suggestion of just making an announcement that you're open to talking about these things up front. That makes sense.
I think it makes you more of an inclusive leader, which is really nice. But I mean, there's no right and wrong. I mean, even if you read from a certain source, you can just try to be as neutral as possible, I guess. Which leads right to our next chapter, creating an inclusive and respectable learning environment. So I would like to start it by saying the first step in this journey is education. Understand the various cultural backgrounds of your students. It's not only an academic exercise, but it's a necessary one, to be honest. By doing so, you're not only enriching your own perspective, but also you're creating. That's what Saida was saying. You're creating a space that acknowledges and celebrates diversity. I'm willing to listen. I want to see what you bring to the table. You are welcome. So remember, when you learn about others, you also open doors to self-reflection and growth. Also, it will foster an environment of respect and openness. It's the cornerstone of your inclusive educational setting. You encourage your students to share their experiences, their perspectives, It is through their sharing, we cultivate a community in our classroom that respects the diversity, opinions, and backgrounds. Also, you have to adapt your teaching methods to cater all your students. So you're going to have to make some flexibility in your teaching style because, as I said before, not everyone is used to the culture of reflection and analysis and critical thinking. They're still learning how to use that. So you be a little bit more flexible, accommodate the array of learning preferences and cultural background presented in your classroom. Also, adding very clear rubrics in your assignments can make that more inclusive for your student. Putting your feedback into written form as well as your verbal feedback is really good because as a secondhand English speaker that I learned from school, not because I have native speaking parents, sometimes I had to look a lot of things up. What does that mean? So give them that chance. They will grow. They will learn that phrase as they go. Maybe they did not catch that while you were speaking so fast. Also, that piggybacks over Saida's explanation. Encourage cross-cultural interactions. Actually, like put the seed for it. Okay. This classroom is a microsome of a global village. You have a lot of people from a lot of places. Create and seize the opportunity for students from different cultures to interact and collaborate through group work, discussion, cultural exchange activities. If you are meeting in person, that'll be much easier. This will foster a mutual respect, and it will transcend in your classroom boundaries. Yes, Saida, please.
Sorry that I'm interrupting.
You're not.
One activity that I did this semester with my students, and I'm teaching a cultural and cross-cultural psychology class, so it was very relevant. We did an identity map activity for our first class, which kind of goes beyond your students coming to class and just saying their name, their major, and their research interests, which I used to do. Doing that activity actually just provides a space for everyone to go into the details of their background, right? If they're multicultural, what they identify as, who their family members are, where do they live, their interests, their hobbies. And
their pets, their sisters. I know.
Exactly.
I've done that.
And
it's
by the
beautiful.
end of
I know.
class, it was so funny because by end of class, I didn't even realize that we had so much diversity in there because you couldn't tell by their faces. But also by end of class, they were so happy. They were like, we loved this activity, and they were able to find similarity amongst themselves in things that might have not been evident. And they actually reached out to each other like, oh, you had that experience, oh, you've been there, and oh, and so it was such a great activity, but it also was insightful for the instructor as well to really kind of understand where their students are coming from.
Yes, I've done one of those before, and I love that. Explain that a little bit to everyone. It's like a mind map,
yes,
but about you. So you're the center, and it goes like, where are you from, your background, your favorite things to do, your what do you identify as?
and
so
you
what
don't tell them, you don't tell them what to write. It's up to them what they want to share. So it's basically trying to say, what are you made up of, right? What makes your identity? And so they get to share what really kind of says who they are as a person, above and beyond their name and their degree. So
they even go through like, I'm a mom, and they post the pictures of their kids. They're like, or I'm a cat mom, and they post the picture of their pets and whatnot. I'm an aunt. It's I think that when a person brings that to the table in your classroom, you have invested in a class environment that is a community. Now they know, like other people know exactly who they're dealing with, and you build a community that is, oh, I'm an aunt too. Oh, I
Yeah,
love my nieces too.
exactly. And it
And
also
then,
helped that I, as the instructor, also did that activity with them, so that
yes,
they also kind of recognized that I was also putting myself out there for them and that I was no different to them. And so they got to know me better, my vulnerabilities. I even told them my fears, right? And, you know, who I am as a person, kind of a practice.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. I love that. Thank you for reminding me with that. I just was totally out of my I should Eric, we should have written that somewhere. The third chapter and the last chapter we're going to deal with is enhancing communication and grading. We have delved through that during our many talks. So make sure that your language is clear, simple, avoid the jargon. Make sure that if not, if you're doing it via Zoom, enable closed captions. Give so in class as well, make sure that you get visual aids. Break up the words. Don't make it so wordy. Encourage participation in so many means. Maybe your class does not want to be known for the person that said the wrong answer. Make sure that you have something that is anonymous that they can answer through. Um, Regular check-ins as well, and make sure to give written feedback. So if the language is a barrier, they can have the chance to translate that. And like in regards to the visual aids, sometimes like I was talking about charts, graphs, images, they can convey like very complex ideas more clearly. So the same way, putting that into public health, instead of just explaining the precede proceed model, we have a beautiful picture of it. That's what you do, Dr. Reynolds, in our classes. You show us what the model is. What are we talking about? And it breaks things up. It's just we can speak about it for very long, but when you see it, ah, ta-da, there's a moment, there's an epiphany. Ah, that's what we're talking about.
I'll be sure to ask for a lot of class response today.
I can make sure that they're like on their feet the whole time. I'm gonna try my best to help you.
All righty.
Sarah, I have
Uh,
one thing to add.
yes, please.
That it kind of sparked from all of this wonderful conversation from both of the faculty here is that in our class, Cafe 530, we do check-ins using a Jamboard that allows
Yes.
them to anonymously, from a 1 to 10, just kind of check in and tell us where they are. But we do it every week, and we'd like to do it anonymously. So we use
Eric,
Jamboard.
when you say where they are, you mean in terms of their understanding of the material?
Oh, no. Good question. It's more of a capacity check-in. For our classes that are certificate-based, we just like to see, because they happen at 5 p.m., Professor, so it's for like working people, we want to know kind of at the beginning of the first 3 or 4 weeks, where's everyone's capacity, their energy? And oftentimes we'll see a very wide range. Let's say it's
Yes,
1
that's
to
true.
10. We'll see people from like a 3 to a 9. But that really helps us kind of set the tone for the class. An example is we have to be more agile-minded as a TA. So if there's, for example, a lot of 3s and maybe 1 9, what we would do is remove one of the agenda items for the instructor for that week. But we notice a lot of engagement, Professor. It allows people to just be a little bit creative, even around a number from 1 to 10. And there's a little bit of an energy there that the students enjoy. So yeah, it's more about a capacity check-in, not a knowledge check-in.
Okay, thank you.
I also believe when you start asking more on a personal level, how are you? Like, really, how are you? Your students bring more to your class. And that's not only international students, but particularly maybe international students because they have a lot of, it's a very big backpack on their shoulders. Like they're carrying heavy things. People back home, different food, weird stuff, different language, navigating the road, everything. Earthquakes for everything. And chores, like chores that they have to do or they just pile up and pile up and pile up. So you'll have a student that's talking to you from under the laundry pile. They're not feeling so good. I was gonna move to nonverbal communication can be puzzling. Okay. In teaching, nonverbal cues such as gestures and facial expressions and tone, they play a very crucial role in teaching. They help convey enthusiasm. They clarify a point, and they indicate the need of attention as well. In interaction, being aware of sensitive of nonverbal cues can help educators and students understand one another better, especially when there is like language barrier. So make sure that you speak not in a monotone voice. Add a lot of your character in your voice. I move my hands a lot. That's a Middle Eastern thing, and you can find it in Italy as well, and in Latin America, we talk with our hands. And I feel that it conveys a message. So I'm doing this. This means that I think. But I think that when professors match the facial appearance and the hand gestures and everything, it does convey a lot about what we're teaching, especially if we're teaching something that is, like Saida is teaching something that is culture. So that's very important. When we are teaching in the public health, we are teaching about like crises that we have in the world, real world dilemmas. And I'm sure that in humanitarians division, they have the same things to teach. So it's not that rigid. It's not science. It's not science people will be very angry, but we're not teaching something very rigid. We're teaching something that has a human aspect to it. So let's match it. It will convey the message better. So how do we tailor methods and grading? We have delved into that. Please make sure that you have multiple modalities of teaching, not only videos, not only articles, not only the chapter from the book. Spice it up. Give more multiple modalities for everyone. And fair grading, using a rubric is really good. Providing feedback. I know many of my professors, including you, doctor, you give a chance for the student to submit a draft. So that's very fair, especially for those that are non-English speakers. Lastly, not very lastly, but almost lastly, be involved. There are plenty of student clubs and organization here in CGU. There is the graduate student council. Contact them, see what do they need, what your international students need. There's also international student orientations that are held every year. Be involved in that. Also the SLDL, which is the Office of Student Life and Diversity and Leadership. They have a ton of information about the makeup of students and international students and diversity and what is needed for our classrooms to thrive. So these are the services organizations offered by Claremont colleges. These are the offices that you can see in front of you. Office of Black Student Affairs, Chicano, Latino Student Affairs, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, International Place, which is the house of many, many international students. And as you see, we have a lot of other resources that we can personally get involved and with in order to foster more into our classroom. Thank you for your beautiful time. I will open the doors for questions and answers. And this, you can see that there's a QR code, but also in the chat, Eric, we're gonna put the Qualtrics link to see your feedback. Your feedback is very important. Also, lastly, before I open the floor for questions and answers, our next webinar will be on February the 6th, and it will be crafting personalized action plans to overcome imposter syndrome in graduate school. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope that I brought an interesting thing to your table. Now you have maybe an extra homework to do, but maybe you're not too angry with me for that. Please, if anyone has any questions, go ahead. The floor is all yours.